So hi everyone, I'm Charlotte. I'm 26 years old, originally from Hull and moved to West Yorkshire about 4 years ago now. So my background is in marketing. I've studied marketing all through uni, all the way up to master's level and the level 6 diploma with the Chartered Institute of Marketing, which I'm also an associate member of. Day job is a digital and e-commerce analyst for a national organisation in the public sector. And then on the side hustle, I like to do freelance digital marketing, covering website and marketing audits, digital strategies and reporting and analysis, giving them really nice visual dashboards so you can see how we're performing against KPIs. Other interests about me, I'm very much into my music. I like going to gigs when I'm allowed to go to gigs. Recently started sewing again, which was a passion of mine growing up. And yeah, just getting on with COVID life.
Yeah, I know that's the big thing now, isn't it? I think that's like a starting topic for most people is how their life's been affected by obviously COVID. How have you found COVID? How have you found like being in lockdown, slowly getting to a point now where it's not getting back to normal, but we're getting out of a lockdown, but possibly going back into lockdown? Because you're in West Yorkshire, aren't you? So does that mean you went back into a full lockdown?
Yeah, so it's not gone into a full lockdown. We're just in local. What that means for us at the minute is we can't go to anybody's houses or have anyone round, whether it's in the house or the garden. And it's just strongly advised against meeting with other households outside anyway. So I've not really gone out, to be honest. I just sort of the rules. But yeah, it's not been too bad for me. I've been working from home since the 17th of March. So I've really adapted to it quite well, to be honest. And not only has it made my productivity better in the day job, it's also helped me figure out how to work properly when I'm doing my freelance stuff on an evening and a weekend, because I can then really separate things out and sort of get into my own little zone. The only difficult thing for me has been away from my family. Obviously, then being so far away, I've not been able to see them as much.
Yeah, I know that feeling, and the whole like working from home now has now become like the biggest thing possible. And I'm similar to the fact that my life has changed a lot, but at the same time it hasn't, because I'm not, I say this even weirdly, but I'm not a sociable person to a point. Like I'm happy to stay indoors and like just work through and spend time with my family and stuff. And obviously with my puppy and with my partner. So yeah, that staying at home thing, it's weird, but at the same time, I don't want to say I'm used to it because that makes me sound like a boring person. But yeah, at the same time, so how are you finding working from home to being in an office? Are you preferring it? Is there any advice you can give to people who are still having to go through that at this point?
I think it's a mixed bag, really. Like, part of me really enjoys it to the point where I can just crack on and get stuff done when I've got a big to-do list. I'm not getting distracted by people coming to the desk and chatting away or getting pulled away from other things into extra meetings than what I've already got on. I think my biggest piece of advice for working from home is make sure you plan ahead. So I do this religiously in the office get words out. Anyway, so I religiously have 30 minutes set in my calendar on a Friday afternoon where I will write my plan for the following week, so that when I start work on a Monday, I've got a full to-do list to do. Yeah. So I know exactly what I'm going to be doing for the rest of the week. And I think that gives a bit of structure as well, because obviously when you're working at home, it's a little bit different in the sense that if you need the toilet, you've just got to get up and go, or if you can just go make a coffee whenever you want a coffee. Well, you don't tend to do that much in the office. I don't anyway. I don't really get up from my desk. I know you're meant to. But yeah, just making sure you're getting into a routine of doing those things and breaking away from it as well at the same time. Yeah,
definitely. I think the routine changes a lot. I suppose it depends obviously what your employee's like, but there's a lot more freedom in it as well, because I'm not a morning person at all. So I don't set any meetings or anything before sort of like 10, 11 o'clock. But I get a lot more done because of that, because my sort of like high points of life are in the afternoon, in the evening. Because I'm one of them people who, I hate the saying that the people who get up at 6 a.m. win in life. I don't agree with that at all, because every person I know who gets up at 5, 6 a.m., they're also in bed at 7, 8 p.m. And it's like, that's the big crossover. Whereas I get up at 9, 10 o'clock, so I can go until that time in the evening. So yeah, routine is definitely a massive thing. Obviously, you mentioned marketing, and clearly you've got a big passion for marketing. Where did that really start from? Because how long would you say you've been in the industry for?
So I've been working in the industry since 2014. So quite a while now. So originally, when I was at school, I wanted to do fashion and textiles. And then I got to my A-level and I needed to fill one more slot to do my 4 A-levels. And the only thing that didn't clash with anything else was business. So I thought, I'll do business. I'll need it later on in life, probably. And anyway, from there, I really enjoyed it. Throughout my A-levels, and decided to do it at Hull Uni, just straight business on its own. And the good thing about the Hull Uni course was in the first year, you do little bits of different areas. So you do some accounting and finance, some marketing, organisational behaviour, things like that. So you really get a feel for what you want to do. And my passion fell straight into marketing. So then I just progressed it from there. Ended up graduating in 2015 with a 2-1 in marketing. And then just working from that and then going on and learning further, because I'm a bit of a geek and I like to be constantly doing things.
No, I know that. I'm a big geek, obviously, when it comes to marketing and social media. And it's not, when I talk about it, a lot of people don't understand it. But it's one thing I've got a big passion for. So obviously you've been in it since 2014, which I'm pretty much the same thing. So obviously you know how much things have changed in like the marketing world. Because obviously a lot of people go back, and like when you think about even maybe not quite 6 years ago, but a little bit more, like things like Instagram were only just coming out. Facebook was the biggest thing around. There was no Twitter, there was no Snapchat. There wasn't any of these. What would you say has been sort of like the biggest change in the last couple of years when it comes to sort of marketing and social media?
I think it's the way budgets have been spent. Obviously a lot more budget now is going into paid advertising, whether that be through Google or whether it be on the different social channels. Definitely there's been a shift that direction, maybe more from offline marketing to online social.
Do you talk about, because it's something that I do myself, do you ever see somebody doing a piece of marketing and ever really like question and go, why are they spending their money on that? Because it's not going to work. And I do it all the time. My biggest one recently is when we've driven anywhere and you go past the lorries on the side of the motorway, and you know a company has spent like hundreds of pounds on it, and it's like half cut up, and you're thinking you're driving at 70 miles an hour. There's no way you can read that number, read what it does and everything like that. But is that something you do as well? Because I know I'm a bit of a geek when it comes to it.
Yeah, I'm exactly the same. But then on the flip side as well, if you see some of the trade vans that are driving around, especially me, I live quite close to the M62, so we get quite a lot of traffic past. And some of the designs on the vans are really like memorable, and they do make you relate back. So I think it's hit and miss with them sort of roadside advertising, definitely. But in terms of any bad examples I've seen, we get a local directory through every quarter, which has got some advertisements in. And I know they're trying to get business, but some of the ad advertisements are absolutely awful. It's just because I think they've put something together without speaking to somebody first. So it's either got a ton of information on that you can't actually consume and find what you need, or it's too bland. Yeah. So I think a lot of small businesses, they think that marketing's really expensive to do, so they try and do it themselves. And it can sometimes it works well, sometimes it can end up going backwards.
Yeah, I agree with that one, of the fact that everyone thinks it's really expensive, and a lot of people are stuck in the way, especially sort of like the older generation. Because I get the same thing through. I think it's every month we get like a little magazine. It's about this big. It's like an A5 size. It's got all these advertisements in it, and they're all dotted around. And like there's 5 pages that have got like gardening work on, and they're all sort of like black and white, and they're all just my name is this, and it's my name at gmail.com, and it's a simple phone number. And I think that's one piece of advice I'd give anybody is just getting the advice for social media and marketing can make a massive difference. Because you see a lot of time. Going back to advertisement, there was a big one the other day in just outside where I am in Beverley, and it was a mobile number, but the email address was his name at gmail.com. And I'm like, you can get an email address for a couple of pounds a month. So that's one piece of advice I'd get is get that advice. It's sometimes it will cost a little bit, but often you can get it for free. And it is places like these podcasts, YouTube. You can just Google search things, and it's like that advertisement book. They're all black and white, but there was one that was green, and it had like this nice little purple border around it, and it stood out on the page. And that's the one that we're picking because of that. But yeah, I know that's a big mistake that people make when it comes to marketing. So yeah, so I'm just thinking the best way to go from here now. So obviously when it comes to marketing and being freelance, because obviously freelance is quite a big thing now that more people are trying it. And obviously I know you said the word side hustle, which I absolutely love, because I'm a big fan of having sort of like multiple streams of income as such. What made you go into freelance, and what's the sort of advice you would give somebody for that?
So my reason for going into freelance, I've done little bits of ad hoc work here and there when people have asked for it. But my previous job was a digital marketing manager at Poundworld, their wholesale and B2B side. And when that company started to go under, I thought I needed to just get out of it. So I did, and I shifted into this analyst role, which I really enjoyed because I like my numbers. I like making pretty dashboards. But over time, I've been there 3.5 years now, and I've really felt like I'm getting detached from the digital marketing strategy, the campaign side of things. And I don't ever want to lose that, because like my career goals are sort of to get back into digital marketing management, and obviously work my way up from there. So the only way that I could think of that could get that experience built up again without changing jobs would be to freelance on the side and get a couple of clients under my belt. So then I've still got work to show as an example, but I'm still having the stability of a full-time paid job as well.
Yeah, I like that, because I know that's a big thing when it comes to freelance is some people do it for the enjoyment of having that sort of like extra thing to do, but then it is also like a bit of a safety net as well for some people, because it's everything's so hit and miss, especially with coronavirus, that for some people freelance is the best option because they've got that freedom. And other people, the big thing in life is that obviously university is the right route, and then getting a job's the right route. But as we found out recently, don't think that having a job is always the best route either, because at a click of fingers, everything can go wrong. So you've lined yourself up well there, of having sort of both routes. And that's why I go back to sort of like the multiple streams of income, such is always a good option to obviously have there. Sorry, bear with me 2 seconds. I just need to move how I'm sat, because I'm actually sat on the floor because there's no I had to get the perfect line. Sorry, that's the upside of not doing it live, because I like to edit and change things. But I had to sit on the floor because of the lighting, and like everywhere else with like moving rooms around and stuff. So where I'd normally do it is completely ruined, and I was like, oh my god, where am I going to do it? So that's why I'm sat on the floor. So thinking about it. So obviously on the freelance route and going through university and stuff, because I get asked a lot. So I never went to university, but that was from life lessons and the way my life panned out as such, from going to college and getting a job and having to leave that job because of sort of like mental health and medical reasons, to then just sort of like making a jump into the freelance world. What would you say when what made you choose uni over trying to go into the world straight away out of interest?
To be honest, it's the only way I knew. When I was at sixth form, it was all uni. It wasn't really about apprenticeships and things like that then, because it wasn't really a big thing. So it just seemed like the norm for me to go down that route. And I nearly didn't go to uni, actually. So 2 weeks before I was due to start, I was going to just get a job. Didn't know what in. I was just going to work and save money. But I actually found out I got a scholarship with the University of Hull. So I ended up not paying any tuition fees. So that's actually the only reason why I went to uni. I mean, I made the most of it. I did what I could study-wise. I stayed at home. I worked 3 jobs around uni as well. So I definitely I feel like I worked hard towards where I've got. But at the same time, I think today university degrees are everything, because if you've got a degree but no experience and somebody's come through an apprenticeship, you're going to be going through that route. And to be honest, so many things now are self-taught. There's so many different YouTube videos and like Udemy courses, things like that. There's so many different routes into this sort of sector.
Yeah, I think that's with everything now, isn't it? Because like I've taken on staff recently, and I know that when it came to the CV and stuff, I didn't really pay attention to the CV because it's just words, and like the whole way through. Obviously, you can bin to uni, that's great, okay. But then even when it comes down to the experiences, when it's written on a CV, it's a bit like, okay, yeah, fair enough, that's great. And then like when you get to the life skills bit and your hobbies and stuff of a CV, I never understand. But that's the big thing for me, is that when I've taken somebody on, and other people do, it comes down to just how you are as a person. Sometimes it does come down to experience, and it depends how many applicants you've got. But when I took somebody on, I was in the lucky stage that I had time to go through each person and sort of have a look and see what. But I ignored their CV, and it was down to how we had a chat like this. Because yeah, university is one for me that I know it's such a hard decision to make for every single person who has to make that decision. But I know the big part is down to what you want to be into. It's like you said there, with the industry we're in, you don't have to go to university, because there's literally so much out there. I still learn every day new stuff about digital marketing. And I know a lot what you probably do at uni as well, depending on what subject you want to get into. But I know social media, a lot of it can be outdated, because when I did a college course, I did social media. And we're talking back in, I think about 2016, 2017. And we were doing all this learning and stuff, and Instagram wasn't even part of it. And you're thinking, okay, Instagram's now one of the biggest things as we're doing this course. And they were talking about MySpace and stuff, and you're thinking, okay, MySpace went like nearly 10 years ago now, let's keep up to date and fresh. So that's the one thing that I would always recommend to people, is that if you are going to uni and doing something like digital marketing, is also spend that time getting experience, because there's loads of agencies out there, who will give you the experience and give you time. You might have to do some of it for free, don't get me wrong. Or the other option is finding that bit of freelance work and starting off from nothing, because that's what I did. I had my first 10 clients and didn't charge a penny, and now we're in the flip side, and I can charge whatever I want to a point, obviously. So obviously you've been through uni and everything. Is there a mistake or anything that you think you've made but you've learned from? Because obviously everybody makes mistakes, but is there one that you think you've made but is actually become one of the better points in life, what you've learned from?
I think my whole journey in my career has been a mistake that's led to something good, to be honest. So when I applied to uni, I applied for a 4-year professional industry course. It mean a year out between my second and third year to going into industry. And I know I didn't work hard enough at applying to enough placements. And don't get me wrong, I applied to about 50 or so, maybe a little bit more, but I was very much a home bird. I didn't want to leave Hull. And that really restricted me, because obviously the market in Hull's a lot smaller than outside. Even if I'd have come up to Leeds, there'd have been a hell of a lot more. And I went for a few interviews, and believe it or not, with them being industry placements, I got told that I didn't have enough experience for them. Don't know how that works, but it happened. So I sort of then took to the stance that, fine, I'm not going to do a placement. I'm just going to graduate. I'm just going to work and finish a year earlier than I thought, was expecting to.
Yeah.
So that, on my part, was me not applying for enough placement and not wanting to leave home. In the end, obviously, I graduated. It turned out quite well, because I've looked for part-time jobs in marketing for that final year, and I managed to pick up a PR role and a social media manager role. So I got some experience, and then managed to get a graduate scheme at Victoria Plum. And I sort of put all my eggs into one basket then. Thought, right, sorted, graduate scheme. Here I go, this is my career off to a flyer. 3 months in, made redundant from that particular graduate scheme. And at that point, I was thinking, oh my God, I've just graduated, lost my job, I've just bought a brand new car, Literally, I got a phone call to say my brand new car was ready at lunchtime. I was pulled into the office about 2 o'clock in the afternoon saying I'd lost my job. So I went to go pick my car up. Like, oh, it's fine. I'm in a brand new car. It's all good. And then I didn't rush back into I'll rush back into looking for work, but I didn't rush in what I was finding. So I went to the job centre. I got told to dumb my CV down to go back to work in a shop or in a bar, and I was like, nah, not happening. Graduated uni, done all to try and get experience, and I was out of work for about 3 weeks. And again, it probably would have been sooner if I'd have thought earlier on about opening up to West Yorkshire and maybe a little bit further. About the second week in, when I was looking and there wasn't really that much on offer, that's when I started to sort of expand my search a little bit further, and I managed to get in at Poundworld. I sort of went for that interview. I got a phone call when I was driving back home saying, well, offering me the job. So started the Monday after. So that was really good. But again, it's just that not being scared, not having that fear of trying to look further away than you're comfortable of, and in that job sector. But yeah, just things from that. It's just continuous. I was obviously commuting for 9 months between Hull and Normanton, which was absolutely tiring, but worth it. And then after a month, Poundworld, I was still in my probation period, so I was still at risk of redundancy. And then I unfortunately had a stroke. So, and that was at work as well. So it meant I was in Pinderfield Hospital in Wakefield and away from my family. I had my mum and dad driving up every day to see me. And I thought, oh God, I'm not allowed to drive for a month. I'm going to be recovering for however long. I'm going to lose my job again because I'm still in probation. And luckily for me, I sort of pushed through and managed to sort of work from home. The company were really good at the time in helping me sort of get back to normal. But that whole time I could have just sort of knocked it on the head and got myself really down about it. And it's important not to. I know times can be like really hard, and my mental well-being's not great now or ever has been, to be honest. But it's really important to pick yourself back up from when them things happen. Otherwise, you just sort of stay down there. And then it's the rest has sort of just been like history, really. Obviously, I got promoted at Poundworld to marketing manager after about 6 months of me being there, which was good. Then to me, it felt like, well, I've had a month having to work from home. I've been ill, but obviously my work and my abilities have been able to help me get that promotion. It's just sort of thinking of those good things and thinking of that feedback and pushing yourself through the barriers.
Yeah, definitely. That's a lot that you've been through then, that to obviously get to this point. And I know that right back from the start there, obviously making mistakes is something that everybody makes. And it's learning from them mistakes, because I think if you don't make mistakes, you probably live quite like a sheltered life. I don't want to use the word boring, but if you're not making mistakes, you're not taking risks and you're not learning from it. Because I know that it's probably similar to you. The biggest things that I've learned in life and that to get me to this point are made up of loads of little mistakes. People make bigger mistakes, people make little mistakes. And obviously that's a lot to go through. And the fact you've been through having a stroke at, how old were you when you had that?
22.
22, so very, very, very young. And obviously being able to still get past that and get through shows that, because I know a lot of people, especially with what's going on right now, because of how many people are in lockdown, are sheltered, can't see any friends and family, how that's taken a massive effect on everybody's mental health and well-being. So knowing that there is support out there is obviously quite a big thing. Because obviously that's what the podcast is about. It's about getting people who have got stories to tell and to show people that there's other people who are going through things at the moment, and there are people out there who can support you. I never compare people, because I never like the comparison things. I've had it people have said to me before, go, well, that person's worse off than you, that person's, and I never like that, because everybody deals with stuff a lot differently. Two people could have the exact same issue, but how one deals with it and their support network could be completely different to the next. But yeah, so obviously going through that as such, obviously 22 it must have been really tough. And moving forward with that, how did it, out of interest, how did it sort of like affect your family life and that circle that you had in your support network?
It certainly taught me who my true friends were, like the ones that actually got in touch and kept checking in, things like that. Some of them didn't, which is fair enough. It happens, but I think it brought my family closer together as well.
Yeah.
Which was nice. My parents separated when I was about 5 years old, and then on and off until I was about 14. And for them two to be travelling down to Wakefield every day, sitting in the car for 2 hours, tolerating each other, it was really nice, and it sort of brought them back together in a sort of civil way. So it was just nice. I think it makes my dad a little bit more afraid of life things now if I'm pushing myself too hard or getting stressed out. Going out on a weekend and having a little bit too much to drink. He's like, oh, what if this happens? But definitely, I think it's definitely helped sort of my family come together. Yeah. I was always close with my family anyway. I always have been. But yeah, that, I think it give a few people a scare.
Yeah, definitely sounds that. So obviously with that being stress related, how do you have sort of like coping ways now, and how do you deal with stress now to make sure that it doesn't come too much? Because obviously I have my way, but I know that my ways don't always work. So have you got sort of ways that you can cope with stress now a little bit better?
Yeah, so to be honest, the stress wasn't really the cause of it. It was actually the contraceptive pill that caused the stroke, unfortunately.
Gosh.
But yeah, what the doctors had said to me was that if you get yourself too worked up, it could still affect it, even though I'm on medication. So I think for me, I'm my own worst enemy, because I'll give all this advice of how to deal with mental health and stress and never take it myself. But for me, it's having that support network and picking your phone up and texting your friends or family or a phone call. But then I also like to keep myself busy. As I mentioned, I've always been busy. I've always worked and studied. So that's why I did my master's, to sort of help my mental health and also my career. And then I did my CIM because it was getting close to the end of the master's, and I thought, oh, what am I going to do to keep busy? So now I've turned to more creative side of things. I've got to do the freelance stuff. I also like to journal. So I literally journal every day, just about life, which is really nice to sort of get all your thoughts and feelings out, whether it's good or bad. I still blog every now and again. Ran a blog since 2014. And I've also got the sewing machine back out to try and get my creativity out in textiles, which is something that I've missed for a very long time.
Yeah, that's the creative side. I know is one thing that helps a lot of people. And a lot of people think they're not creative or that they can't find this creative route. It's like, for me, I always make sure that I've got a website design to do. It's often a client, it might be my own thing, but it means it's escape from everything, where I can just sit back. And everybody has their different ways, but I know finding that thing helps a lot of people, because for me personally, it is getting into that website, but gaming is another big thing for me as well. That's like my escape from reality. And you obviously got your journaling, now you're sewing as well. And yeah, just making sure you've got that sort of like route that I like to use the word escape from reality, I suppose it is. But everybody can be creative, and a lot of people I know, once they realize that and find that little bit of creativity that they can do, that sometimes is that nice little like breather, an escape from what they do day to day. Go back as well from like texting friends. I know that it was obviously World Mental Health Day a couple of days ago, and one thing that I shared to everybody, I want to share now, is that everybody watching and listening, I want them to pick up their phone and text somebody and sort of just ask how they are, because that can make a massive difference. And I know personally that somebody can text me, how am I? And I can be feeling like utter rubbish. And I'll text, I'm okay if I'm not. But having that somebody reach out at that time makes you feel a little bit better. And there'll be a lot of people out there that can spark conversation, I think. So that's one thing that I'd encourage everybody who's listening, watching to do, is go out there and text somebody and just say, hi, how are you? Don't even say, how are you? Just say hi. And just start a bit of a conversation there, because it can make a difference to both of your days as such. But yeah, so I think that is everything. You've been a great guest. We've covered a lot. Is there, obviously, before we get going, is there anything that you wanted to sort of like advise people? Anything you wanted to say to people to encourage anybody? And yeah.
Yeah, I think the only thing for me, obviously, I've come over a lot of obstacles, and it still happens now. Last year, I went for an internal role that was really my next step in my career where I want to go, and I didn't get it purely based on my interview performance. And I know that's a downside of me, and I know that's something I need to work on. But my main advice is these things do come in the way, and these things do happen. Nothing in life is perfect and smooth, and you've just got to build yourself up afterwards and sort of push yourself through it and learn from everything that you go through.
Yeah, definitely. I agree with that one. Every mistake builds hopefully to something better. And it often does. And if you're not making mistakes, then you're probably not living to the fullest as such. And everybody it's one of them sayings I don't like, but everybody makes mistakes. And that's the big thing. But